Well, I think that was a game for the purists, but I absolutely loved it. Ireland against New Zealand in Dublin, Friday night, kicking the weekend off. That's what we're talking about in this video. So welcome back. If you are looking to avoid the result, then now is your time to click off the video and come back once you have caught up. But what do you make of it? Ireland fans, uncharacteristic? We'll get onto that in just a moment. And All Blacks fans, is that the most significant result so far under Scott Robertson? I think it probably is, but you can let me know in the comments section. If you're new here as well, then subscribe to the channel, and all of you, hit the thumbs up on the video. I'd really appreciate that one. That was a proper arm wrestle of a test match, wasn't it? In that there were quite a lot of mistakes from both sides. There was a lot of ill discipline, in particular on the Ireland side. We're definitely going to come on to that and that feature of the Ireland performance. But overall, I thought it was enthralling. It's obviously been wet in Dublin. It was slippery. But for most of that game, it was on a knife edge. And there were a number of occasions where you felt like the momentum was flip-flopping between the two teams. And ultimately, it's the All Blacks that deservedly get the victory. They've won at Twickenham last week, and they win in Dublin this week. And I want to address that question that I already posed to the All Blacks fans. Most significant result under Scott Robertson, I think, surely. Obviously, last week away to England at Twickenham was massive. But Ireland are what many people consider to be the best team in the world at the moment. If you don't have them number one, you've probably got them number two. They are a serious outfit. And of course, Ireland in recent years against the All Blacks, since 2016, have had the better of this rivalry. But New Zealand went in there and got the job done. And do you know what? Fair play to them. Because you remember the start of the second half? So what was it? It was 9-6 at half-time to New Zealand. Start of the second half, from the kickoff, New Zealand get pinged for a penalty for essentially blocking. Correct decision. Ireland then proceed to score the try. After that, shortly after that, New Zealand take a quick line out. It ends up with Damien McKenzie. They get turned over. They give the ball away. It was an awful start to the second half for New Zealand. And I was watching it thinking, they've given the lead away straight away. They've given momentum to Ireland. They're in a lot of trouble here. But they were able to get themselves out of it. Partly down to, I think, Ireland not being as cohesive and efficient and disciplined as they usually are. But also, this is an All Black side that are showing they have spirit. A week ago at Twickenham, heading into the final 20 minutes of the game, when we were at the hour mark, they were trailing by however many points it was, a couple of scores away to England. And they had the ability to end up winning that game, to execute under pressure. And I think we've seen something similar here. And look, they're not actually the finished article yet, are they? They are still growing. They are still developing under Scott Robertson. But under a new coach, in a year where it's a new regime, they've had some good results, some poor results. You want to see a team that is growing. And I think the last 2 weeks have been real evidence to the fact that this New Zealand team is doing exactly that. And the one other thing that I wanted to mention, actually, because it's easy to forget, a couple of weeks ago, New Zealand were playing in Japan. They then get on a plane and travel to London, and so are kind of jet-lagged a little bit in their build-up to playing England at Twickenham. They then have a 6-day turnaround before facing Ireland, and they've beaten England and they've beaten Ireland. I think they deserve a huge amount of credit for this performance and the last couple of weeks. They would have learnt a huge amount about themselves, including some individual players. Wallace Satiti, again, I thought was excellent, as he was last week. Damien McKenzie has looked superb from what we've seen from him. I thought he was excellent at fly half. He was the player of the match as well. And Ardie Savea. I mean, there's a number of different players you can mention, but just those couple. I want to just mention Cortez Ratu, though, because that is one of those ones that I think is worth keeping an eye on. This is a big learning curve for him on this spring tour, Northern Tour. He's struggled at times. And I think that, again, was the case today. It wasn't that he was awful by any stretch, but I thought it was quite revealing that he came off on 50 minutes and Cam Roigard came on, because Roigard, I thought, made a real difference. I've always liked Roigard. I really liked what I saw from him at the World Cup last year. He's had some horrible time with injuries. The ball was just cleaner. He was getting it out of there in the contact zones cleaner, whereas Ratu was having a bit of a tough time, I thought, with what we saw. So I thought That's something to keep an eye on. And just in terms of the 9 position, Ratimer's clearly a good player, but there is a learning curve for a lot of players at this level. And I think we're probably experiencing that. And I thought Roygaard again was very, very good. Let's get on to Ireland though and talk about discipline. Was discipline, when you boil it down, ultimately the big difference here? There are a number of different areas you could look at, but I think that was the thing for me when it flashed up on the TV when I was watching around 60 minutes, 62 minutes, something like that, and Ireland had already conceded 12 penalties, whereas New Zealand had conceded 5. And in a game that swings one way and then the other, which is tight, where there's a lot of mistakes because of the conditions, that's always, I think, going to have a big factor at play. Ireland's discipline was not good enough. They didn't build enough pressure. And likewise, when they were in good positions, they often let New Zealand off the hook. And I suppose from an Irish perspective, they've had so many brilliant moments over the last few years that, are you concerned after that game or not? I think there's probably 2 things that I would say would concern you. Now, you back Andy Farrell and these coaches and this group of players to continue to get better, to learn from it, to kick on. I would imagine when we get to the Six Nations at the start of next year, they're still going to be one of, if not everyone's favourites to win it. They're still in a really good place, don't get me wrong. It was only a few months ago that they had that incredible win away to South Africa. But there are 2 things probably from this game that would concern me the most, and I'm interested, Ireland fans, on your view. Number 1, as I've mentioned already, it was an uncharacteristic performance. In particular, their cohesion, or lack of cohesion. Under Farrell over the last few years, for the success of this team, they have been, I think, the most cohesive rugby team on the planet in terms of their shape in attack, their defence, every element of their game. You felt like it was a team of 15 players, whoever was on that pitch knew what their job was and knew what they needed to execute for the team to be successful. I'm not sure we quite saw that in the same way tonight. A lot of balls going to ground, a lot of passes out the back that didn't find their man, a lot of handling errors. Okay, that might just be one of those days, they're having an off day, the conditions are difficult, and they'll be able to correct that. But the lack of cohesion, I think, is probably the thing that would concern me. And perhaps even bigger than that, and something that I was speaking to a few people about before the game actually, is the bench, and the bench struggling. And Cian Healy has been a brilliant servant to Irish rugby. Peter O'Mahony has been the same. Conor Murray as well. But if you're chasing a game, as they were in that second half, are those the players you want coming off the bench to make the difference? And obviously, they got unlucky with O'Toole just after coming on, picking up a head injury, so Finlay Bealham essentially had to play the full game. But I also still have concerns about those front row replacements. Now, okay, Tadhg Furlong will come back, Bealham will come off the bench most likely, and that changes the complexion there. But I just think that maybe some of the weaknesses in this Irish team in terms of personnel at the moment were revealed tonight, or at least highlighted. That would be my take on it, but let me know what you think. So overall, I think that is the biggest win of the Scott Robertson tenure, away to Ireland in Dublin, because of the context of this rivalry. And what a game, I absolutely loved it. So many little moments you thought could swing it either way. And I thought the way New Zealand hung in there, they took the points when they were on offer. And actually that try from Will Jordan was exceptional. That was a brilliant try, moving it one way and then the other, keeping the ball, the handling ability, even at the end with a pass that bounced into, was it Amua, the hooker? One of the front row anyway, to pick it up off the deck, fling the pass out wide to Jordan, who finished in the corner. There was a lot to love, I think, about that New Zealand performance. A real gritty, hard-fought win. What did you make of it? Comment down below, let me know. Like the video as well. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be at Twickenham tomorrow for the England game. But before then, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.